Hello everyone, welcome back to the War Zone. I'm Scruffy and this is Scruffy Tales. And yes, unfortunately we have seen video of what could potentially indicate that the first archer has taken a hit. But also we have received news from the front line where Ukrainian soldiers praise the CV-90. And it was on Twitter X Twix that we saw video footage of what appears to be a Russian drone closing in on an archer. Uh, I mean, no confirmation of damage or anything of the sort. Just this heat signature image that's kind of closes in on the archer itself. Hell, for all we know, this could be armor, but uh, I don't think it was bound to happen sooner or later. With all the loitering drones being deployed by both sides, it was only a matter of time before Russia would actually find an archer with a drone by pure happenstance, more or less. So yeah, it finally happened, and like I said, inevitable. It would happen sooner or later. And like I said in a previous video, when the archers first arrived, it wouldn't surprise me if Russia actually put in a lot of effort in finding the archers, meaning that they are ignoring other targets of opportunity and just trying to find archers with their drones specifically. So that might be what's happened here, that they've ignored other targets in the area and until they actually found an archer and then went for it. But yeah, hopefully the crew survived. And but like I said, no confirmation of if it's been damaged or destroyed. Just that we have this video of what appears to be a drone closing in from above on an archer. But we've also seen an interview that Ukraine has done with some Ukrainian soldiers operating the CV-90 in the 21st Mechanized Brigade, the Swedish brigade that has CV-90s, that have SRV-122s, and rely on archers from an artillery brigade to support them. And and what do they tell us? Well, we have a CV-90 commander that says, thanks to the Barracuda coat, the camouflage, which we now only have on Swedish equipment, the vehicle is 70% less visible. And on the thermal cameras, it's just gray, like a padded cold car, plus it stays warm inside thanks to the coat. So that's a bonus, I guess. And he then goes on to say that it has one downside, and I think we all already know what that downside is, and it is the three magazines holding 8 rounds each. And I mean, you go through those 8 rounds and three magazines pretty quickly in a firefight. So, but they also say that reloading it's pretty fast. You reload it pretty fast. But if you had more ammunition on hand with less reloads, that would obviously make things a lot more easier for the soldiers when they're fighting. And then you have the deputy commander of the 21st, and he says the armor is the most important thing. Our vehicle withstood direct hits from Lancets, various FPVs, and a 120mm shell hit the back. The vehicle withstood everything. And in the summer, 2 T-90s were sent at our vehicle, and they did not spare the gunpowder to destroy it, but it didn't work. I mean, those are, according to the Ukrainians at least, two of Russia's best main battle tanks that were deployed to deal with CV-90s, and the CV90s held their own in that fight. That's pretty impressive if we are to believe what he's telling us. And next we have a company commander of the 21st, and he says the ammunition does not detonate at all. There was a case when an FPV hit the turret and the penetrator beam entered into the ammunition. Scary stuff. But the powder simply burned out without detonation. Yeah, so had that been on BMP or even a T-72 or whatever on the Russian side, that would have caused a massive explosion within the vehicle as the ammunition would have detonated, and we would have seen a video of a turret flying off to the moon. Not so with the CV90. And last but not least, we have a vehicle commander of a CV90s telling us that the vehicle is a tractor. Comfortable, maneuverable, energetic, the vehicle is just a lively one. There is air conditioning, you can listen to the radio. I mean, they're singing the praises, right? Ukraine loves this machine. They love the CV90, and they can compare it to other Western vehicles. They can compare it to Russian vehicles, and they know that the CV90 is the best vehicle available in Ukraine. And this is where we can find the Swedish equipment in the north of the front line, where we have the 14th and the 21st Mechanized Brigades relying on CV90s. We have the 45th Artillery Brigade utilizing Archers. And then at Bakhmut as well, we have the 93rd Mechanized Brigade, and they too operate CV90s. And this is this is not an unimportant part of the front line. We have heard a lot about Avdiivka, obviously, of late, and the Ukrainian counteroffensive down at Robotyne and Verbove. But here in the north is where Russia has launched their own counteroffensive to exploit the Ukrainian counteroffensive during the summer. So when the Ukrainians were completely focused on trying to breach Russian lines in the south, the Russians launched a big assault up in the north to basically outflank the Ukrainians on the strategic level while the Ukrainians were focusing everything they had down in the south. And holding the line against this Russian onslaught was the 21st and 14th Mechanized Brigades and others as well, obviously, but these two brigades are using the CV90s. So the CV90s and the SRV-122s and the Archers are fighting a very important fight and have been fighting this fight since the summer of 2023. This is a fight that Ukraine cannot lose. They can't afford to lose. I mean, the main offensive, they launched it, they tried to break through. I mean, they can make an operational pause and try and figure out what to do next and how to outsmart the Russians in the south. Sure thing. I mean, they can take all the time they need to make that happen. Ukrainians in the north don't have that luxury. The Russians are coming, and they can't be let through. The Ukrainians can't let the Russians breach the lines up in the north, because then they will be able to grab all the territory up to the Oskil River. So this front line must hold. This is a fight that Ukraine cannot lose. This is not Avdiivka where you can hold out for as long as possible and then fall back and give Russia a couple of rocks. That's all that's left of a town, right? This section of the front line must hold, and this is where we have the CV90s, the Archers, and the SRV-122s fighting an extremely important battle for the Ukrainians. And so, yes, just because the CV90s weren't deployed in the south and taking part in the big main offensive, trust me, they are involved in a very important fight, fighting very important battles. And yeah, and they are holding up pretty well, apparently, if we are to believe the Ukrainians. Yes, so unfortunately, we may have seen evidence of the first archer getting hit. Hopefully, all the crew survived, and I mean, it was bound to happen sooner or later. And but on a positive note, the Ukrainians love the CV-90. The CV-90 is a real workhorse holding the line and defending Ukrainian territory and defending the Ukrainian people from being occupied. And yeah, so we should give them more when we can now that we are basically in NATO. Send them everything we have. Send them more CV-90s, more STRVs, more archers. Just ship it down there. Give them Gripen. They will put it to good use, and it will be for good cause, allowing Ukrainian children to grow up free in Ukraine, speaking their own language and being free to have their own culture and history. So, yeah, I'll see you in the next one. And as always, go på marsch, Ukraine, give them hell.